you might be a little bit gassy,
Mm-hmm.
or you're going to be a lot of bit gassy.
Or maybe I should just say I'm gassy. That's what happens around the holidays when you start going off your diet, man. All hell breaks loose. Your
Yeah.
stomach starts going crazy.
Yeah.
And I think it was maybe 2 days ago. Like, I ate good the whole day. I fasted. I kind of had a plan going into it, and I knew I was going to eat some of my dad's. My dad makes calls it Eskimo pie. It's basically what happened is on one Christmas in particular, my dad, he we all forgot dessert. And like we didn't have anything for dessert, and my dad's like, he's like, I'll go out and get something. We're like, everything's closed, and he's like, nah, I'll get it. Something will be open. He couldn't find anything open, and so he actually ended up finding a gas station that was open, and he went in the gas station and he bought just like I don't know, 30 ice cream sandwiches,
Mm.
and then he bought, I think he got some vanilla ice cream and maybe some like Cool Whip or something like that. I can't remember what the other thing was, and chocolate syrup. And so he made this. He laid down the ice cream sandwiches in a pan, and then he put ice cream on top of it, and then he put Cool Whip on top of that, and then he put the chocolate syrup on top, and then we had a bunch of cookies there because it's Christmas time. Everyone always has cookies around. He smashed up some cookies and threw that on top, and and then he cut it up and he served it up, and it was amazing. And so from that point on, we had that Eskimo pie served up to us, and so I've been a big fan of that, and I knew I was going to eat that, and I knew I was going to be maybe a little reckless with some other stuff. But man, did I pay the price the next day? My toilet paid the price. It's like we got to figure out a way to reinforce that bad boy. It's your stomach just gets killed, and when you're not used to it, like back a few years ago, or maybe pretty long time ago for me, but like maybe in the middle of my powerlifting career, like I ate a lot of whatever I wanted. And I guess I just didn't even really notice as much, or maybe it's just because the foods weren't so foreign to me. I was probably more used to them. And now, Andrew and I were talking earlier about how we're kind of screwed. Like this is a blessing and a curse to be in this fitness space and to be fired up about fitness and to kind of live under this code of honor. And you get these kind of like rules going for yourself. Like I'm going to train more days than I'm not. I'm going to eat really healthy. I'm going to try to, have 90%, 95% of my meals be like what I feel is the healthiest and best option for me now. And occasionally I'll let her rip, once a month, once every other week, holiday, birthday, something, right? You got to kind of you may as well. Somebody makes something special. Your aunt makes some special brownies every year, or somebody makes tamales, for example.
You're welcome, by the way.
Yeah, those were delicious. And so you kind of you want to do it. You want to enjoy stuff with other people. That's part of the celebration. Like, let's face it, the food is part of the celebration. It's definitely part of the entire thing. And so therefore, you got to do it, but then there's also like a price to pay, right?
Yeah, well, like what I was telling you earlier, it's sort of like we set the bar so high for ourselves, for our mind and our body. So we train every day, and now we're, it's the analogy I gave you is like if we take our kids to like Chuck E. Cheese every night,
Right.
like that's the standard, and then it's like, hey, no, we're gonna make food at home tonight. They're just like, what? No,
Yeah.
why?
Right.
You dropped the ball on that one, Dad. So
yeah, we're gonna have chicken, vegetables, and rice. Kid's gonna be like, what?
Yeah.
Why?
So for us, when it's like, okay, I'm gonna eat good, whatever, for I don't know, whatever, the whole summer, whatever it is, I just now eat good. That's what I do. I eat healthy, and then the one day that we go off and we drop the ball and the bar gets reset down low, and it's like, oh, dude, I feel terrible. And the conversation started up because over on Christmas, I didn't do anything. Stephanie and I just stayed at home and kicked it, and I felt so bad yesterday. My back,
Right.
my back was feeling worse than it's ever felt, and it was depressing. It was physically it hurt. And it was all because I took one day off.
People are really loving this topic. There's people are all fired up in the messages over here. One guy mentioned balance, another guy mentioned consistency, and both the guys are you're right. I mean, if there's got to be kind of a balance between you trying to be a badass, you trying to be fit, you trying to be in shape, you trying to be strong. And you definitely need a lot. You need to string together. Unfortunately, you need to string together quite a bit of consistency. I would say that maybe genetics can factor in there a little bit, but like you better be on point, 85, 90% of the time
Yeah.
for us to really start to see anything in somebody. If you're on point and you're training pretty hard and you're eating pretty good, but on a scale of 1 to 10, you're like a 7 or a 6, might not really see much progress. Like you might not really look like you lift. Like it sucks, but I know a lot of high level powerlifters even that just because they haven't paid specific attention to their aesthetics and specific attention to their diet, some of them don't even really necessarily look like they lift. And to an untrained eye, to somebody that hasn't been lifting for a long time, or to, let's say, like a little kid, the person might just look fat. They might not have like any cuts or definition. They might not look like what that person's used to seeing when they see a leaner person.
Yeah, and somebody just had commented on the IG live stream, just saying like one cheat meal won't derail your progress, and that's 100% true. Absolutely, that's something I had to keep telling myself, which was
it kind of can though.
Right.
It's a trap.
I had to keep telling myself like, dude, okay, the last 2 days does not erase the whatever year of training and eating right has done, but it could have easily put me back on my ass again for the third day in a row, and then ate bad for a third day in a row, and then who knows where that was going to lead. So it's like they say, it's a slippery slope.
Yep, it's the old banana peel, right? And by the way, has anybody actually fallen and slipped on a banana peel, or is that just in the cartoons?
It's for sure in Mario Kart. It's devastating.
Yeah, I know I've tried it before, and it actually is slippery because you got to try things out when you're a kid, just like you see, Ric Flair giving somebody a figure 4 leg lock, and then next thing you know, your brother's horking you in the figure 4 leg lock or the camel clutch, and you got to see how painful it is.
Yeah.
But I don't know anybody that's actually like really wiped out.
That's funny.
Be like, hey man, did you hear about so and so? Like, no, dude, what happened? Like, yeah, like Filipino Thunder, man. He came in here the other day, but somebody they didn't throw out the trash the right way, and he slipped on a banana peel, and he hasn't been in here for a month.
Yeah, he strained both or his
groin.
Yeah, his groin is just laid him out flat.
He might not be back for a while.
Damn. R.I.P.
But on that topic of balance and on this topic of this cheat meal stuff, so I think that balancing things out is a decent way to look at things. I like to use the word harmony though, because I think that things should they should go in conjunction with each other. Things should align with each other a little bit better. So balance would imply, in my opinion, it would imply that things are like 50-50 or 60-40 here and there, and then they level back out again. But in the case of fitness, in the case of being healthy and being strong is a full-time job, and being in the shape that you want to be in is a full-time job. And if you don't think so, try finding people that are happy with the physique that they have. Try finding people that are happy with the strength that they have. And I realize a lot of things go into that, and a lot of people are just mentally kind of screwed up when it comes to that. But think about that. Think about your own journey. Think about how long you've been training for, and are you happy with your physique? I myself, just more recently, going through that bodybuilding show and even kind of leveling out to like where I'm at now, more recently have been more comfortable with my physique, more comfortable with my body, and I actually am happy with my physique. But just like everybody else, I still want to get better. I still want to be in better shape. I still like to be leaner, healthier, stronger. I mean, who doesn't want these things, right? We do want these things, but I think balance might not be a great way to look at it, because we've tried to use balance as a marker in the past and say, yeah, you need a balanced diet. But it just has not worked. It has not been very effective. Now, some people can have balance, but I think it's very easy that once you implement some sort of balance, once you implement some kind of carbohydrates and you say, yes, you can have this, for a lot of people, and I'm not saying everybody, but for a lot of people, once you say, yes, you can have carbs, then it leads the person to have bread. It leads the person to have this. It leads the person to have that. And let's back things up a little bit. Bread is not a problem. Rice is not a problem. Potatoes are not a problem. But a lot of times these things are transport systems for a lot more calories. Then we start blending fats and carbohydrates together. Fats and carbohydrates together do not magically make you fatter, but man, that's a dense caloric load to take in. I said load. That's a dense caloric load to handle for your body. And shit, does it taste good? Now we got carbs and fat. That's ice cream. That's pizza. Like these are the best things that this planet pretty much has to offer. A cheeseburger with a real bun. God damn, those things are really good, right?
You know, the things that I didn't take advantage of, like I didn't fall completely off the rails. I didn't have it, like a hamburger with fries with the bread. I didn't have pizza. But what ended up happening, and I think it's just as bad, is like, oh yeah, I can have chicken and rice. Like, okay, cool. So I can have rice. Oh, cool. So I can have I can have a bunch of tamales. Okay, cool. I
Right.
can follow it up with some cookies. Oh, okay. Well, I got a bunch of chocolates for Christmas. I'll just have a couple here and there. And it's like by the end of the day, I'm like, oh my gosh, I had so much garbage today.
This attitude
It's crazy.
This attitude comes from performance. You know, you want to like, it's a real easy sell to yourself. It's easy to like upsell yourself and say, oh, okay, well, yeah, you had a sandwich and that was kind of off the diet, but you didn't put that much mayonnaise on it. You know, you didn't put that much bullshit on it, and so it wasn't that bad for you. Nah, you might as well have the potatoes with dinner because you're gonna bench tomorrow, and then you got deadlifts later in the week, and you may as well just you might as well just like, you know, it wouldn't hurt you to have extra protein, extra fat, a little extra carbs. I mean, it's not gonna. So you just keep having this conversation with yourself. You're like Fred Flintstone back in the day in the cartoons when he had, you know, the angel on one side and the devil on the other, and the devil always outweighed,
Yeah.
you know, all the thoughts because those were the easier things to do. Those were the more appealing things to do, and that's what happens to us. The next thing you know, we're knee deep in pizza or you know, chocolate or cookies or whatever it might be.
And that's how I okayed it. Also, you know, I was like, oh well, we're gonna probably do some benching tomorrow. Like, no, I'm fine. I can eat a little bit more right now. And then it's like, well, my weight's kind of going up. Let's see what happens if I keep doing this, keep this up. But no, it wasn't a good move.
And you know, one of the guys commenting about balance, you know, in his defense, you know, what he's trying to say, and he commented on Instagram over here. Appreciate you guys commenting, by the way. This really helps. But he's basically saying, you know, balance is subjective to the person, and find something that is in balance with some of your goals and in balance with some of the things that you're trying to do. That will allow you to build some consistency, and that I definitely agree with. And that's why I kind of like the word harmony. I like the word align. I like things to align with your goals. I think balance is a weird thing. People talk about like the work-life balance, and a work-life balance is a weird thing because you could not have any work to do, and your work-life balance could be out of whack, because if you don't have work, you could be stressed that you don't have work, and that could cause a lot of problems in your household and could be pulling away from other things. So I personally I got this from listening to something from Jeff Bezos, and I thought it was dynamite. I thought, you know, using the word harmony, kind of replacing the word balance was a good thing, because I don't think it's all that realistic for us to work towards. We're you know, a normal job, a normal full-time job is 40 hours a week minimum, and I think in this day and age, I think that it's a safe bet to say that probably all of us work more than that. You know, so that's a lot of hours away from the family. And then how do you have balance with that? That's where things get to be hard. But if you kind of think about it, you want everything to kind of be in sync with each other. That's a little bit different, because when Andrew's daughter is getting education, and when my kids are getting education, I'm here. But when my kids get home, I'm home. It's not simultaneously all the time, but on the weekends, we try to work out a little bit earlier, get the workouts done. We're home by noon. The kids slept till 10, 11. It's not a big deal. Then we spend the whole rest of the day together. Maybe we all go see a movie. Maybe we all go to this. Maybe we all go do that. But those are just some of the things that I'm kind of starting to recognize. And how do you have harmony during the holidays with your diet and with your fitness? It's tough, man. I got to say, I've been like almost like just pissed at myself, kind of depressed in a way. Of this, just a simple, just not even doing it, just the thought of waking up at like 7 on a day versus, my normal routine of me waking up at like 3:45 or 4:15 or somewhere in there. It pisses me off. And like I didn't do it today. I didn't wake up early today. I didn't wake up early yesterday. Christmas Day was kind of the same thing. And it's like, it's so frustrating to me. But there's the other side of me that says, dude, look, man, you're going to make yourself sick if you don't get the you went to bed later. So that's a rule that I have. If I go to bed later, I wake up later. I'm not going to force the 4 a.m. thing just to take a picture and post it on Instagram and act like that's an everyday thing. I wake up at 4 a.m. and I feel like I'm launched out of a cannon probably 3 or 4 days a week. It's not something that I have to do, but it's something that I like to do. And so that is something that's important for me to understand. I don't have to do it. I like to do it because if I feel like it helps me get ahead. I wake up at about 4. I usually have a cup of coffee or some water. I go in my hot tub. I get out of the hot tub. I usually go down to Starbucks for a little while. I hang out. I work. I come back. I cook some breakfast for my kids. And that's my routine. And that's what I like. And that's what feels good to me. But there's also got to be another side to you that realizes, like, look, man, all this stuff's not going to be possible to do all the time, every day. There's going to be a point where you got to pump the brakes a little bit. You do need to relax. You do need to have time with your family. You do need to have some times where you're not really doing anything. Andrew mentioned to me that he just had a chill weekend and he got to spend some time with his fiance. That's awesome. That's what that's what the holidays are for.
Yeah, it was really cool because unfortunately, she kind of got a little sick. So we had some plans on Christmas Day. Just two gigantic Mexican families. We started Christmas on the 23rd. So we had, one Christmas that day, and then Christmas Eve, we had multiple Christmases, and then we had another one on actual Christmas Day. And she just was not feeling it. So I'm just like, babe, like, it's okay. When was the last time we just did nothing for a day? Like, let's get you feeling better and let's chill out. Watched Netflix, hung out. Like, it was great. And I was like, oh, this is going to be so cool because I'm going to be so rested. I'm going to probably pull like a big deadlift at the end of the week. Like, this is going to be amazing. And then I woke up yesterday and I just, like I told you, I felt like I had a gigantic balloon, like, just inflated in my back. Like, I couldn't move without being in.
It's spinal.
It was terrible.
Broke my back.
Yeah. And I just, I got super depressed because I'm like, man, I did this to myself. All I had to do was just move around, and I didn't even do that. Now, who knows how long this is going to last, but a great bench session kind of got my mind right again. Moving around a little bit got my back right again, and today I feel way better. Thank goodness. So,
right.
But yeah, dude, just one freaking day of just chilling did so much. It was so detrimental. Like, it was terrible.
It just kind of sets you off in the wrong motion, sets you off in the wrong direction sometimes. And then I think it's just a matter of, okay, like, next time that situation comes up, which would be New Year's Eve, maybe you guys celebrate and maybe you want to do something fun. Maybe you're like, okay, well, I'm going to give myself some slack, but I'm just going to give myself a little bit less slack. I'm going to, I'm going to, still train in the morning, or I'm going to go for a walk, or I'm going to go for a run, or maybe you and Stephanie do something together workout wise that looks different than us coming in here and killing ourselves. It's something that you guys can do together. It's still fun. It's still a challenge, and you both benefit from it. And then you can spend the rest of the day doing nothing. Spend the rest of the day kind of dicking around, because dicking around is important. It's important to like have time where you're not doing a whole lot. I've talked about that a bunch of different times on this podcast about how I'm not a big believer in quality time. I'm more, and obviously, like, I do believe in quality time. It's important, but I think it's quantity time, especially when it comes to family. Like, you just have to be around each other. A lot of times you'll hear, I don't want to be sexist, but a lot of times this does come from the female population to the males, and so they'll say, you're just not around enough. I want you around more. And guys are confused and like, huh? Like, they don't get it. They don't understand. And really, what a lot of women are looking for is just for you to be there more. And they could say, like, yeah, just want you here more. And you're kind of thinking to yourself in your head, like, we don't even like some of the same TV shows. So, like, what's the difference if I'm here or not? Because we might be in different rooms. But that's not what matters. What matters is that you're there. Like, they just want you to be there. And that, I mean, I'm sure that could be said from male to female as well. But that's just my own personal experience, and that's a lot of times what these holidays are for. These holidays are to enjoy each other, and I think for a lot of us, the food, the alcohol, is a part of us all enjoying each other. But I just think that there does have to be a governor put on it a little bit. You do have to try to think about it like, okay, I'm going to encapsulate this moment. I'm going to be there from 4 to 6 p.m. at this party, and I'm going to just prepare yourself going into it. You know, me and my brother kind of talked about like which day we were going to eat, more desserts or whatever, and we were like, well, let's not do it on this day. But like, let's not skip the holidays altogether. That would be rotten. Like that wouldn't be any fun. So Christmas Eve, we didn't eat anything bad. Christmas Day, we ate some bad stuff.
Yeah.
Keep it simple. Try to find a slot. Try to find a space to where you can enjoy everything that everybody else is doing. But maybe just kind of, keep a little bit of a lid on it so that your back doesn't hurt the next day, or so that you don't feel like shit, or say you don't, not like me, like ended up on the toilet for 4 hours.
Yeah, and I want to go back to what you're saying about quantity time over quality. It's not that you're saying like, oh, just whatever, spend whatever time,
Right.
like, and just throw it out the window. But I mean, how many of us have tried to build that quality time where we build this huge day up, and this has happened to me where like one small thing will go wrong and the day's kind of ruined, and then it's just like, like shit, like what was the point, man? Like I took time off, I spent all this money on this and that, and now it's ruined. We build so much pressure on trying to make the perfect day instead of just spending time with each other. It's like if I took the effort to spread that out through like an entire month instead of one day, it's like one of those days is going to be way better than the one day that I tried to plan to make the epic day of the year.
Yeah, right.
So it's like let's spread it out, and let's like you said, spend more quantity over quality, and chances are the quantity is going to end up being better than the actual like quality day.
Right. Like you might, set up a trip to go to an amusement park or something.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, yeah, that's great, but that doesn't make up for not being there Monday through Monday every single week, right? And so that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. It's important just to like be around, and kids are pretty simple. Like, hey, you want to throw a ball around? Yeah, okay. Like they all of a sudden they get pumped. So that doesn't require really anything special. That doesn't really require anything financial. It requires some time. Requires a little bit of thought. And they get fired up and they get excited from that. Hey, you want to go outside and like, do something? Or hey, you want me to take you downtown somewhere and we'll go for a walk, or we'll go to a couple stores and you can buy some crap or whatever. Like you just think of something that you get out of the house and do something, take them to a movie or whatever. But it doesn't have to be this like crazy, fantastic thing.
There's a lot of people saying that they're pooping right now on the live stream.
Yeah, and I don't blame them. I don't blame them. If I had a toilet right here, I would be doing the same thing.
That's fine. I'm trying to find it. Somebody had asked if queso dips helps build their triceps.
And I saw that, yeah.
And I'd like to say that I have queso tattooed on my hand, and I work my triceps every day. And so I think there is some correlation there.
You got cheese permanently on your hands?
Permanently, yes.
That's amazing.
Yeah, well, I can.
Now you're making me hungry.
Well, it's because I'm a photographer, so instead of putting smile or cheese on there, I wrote it in Spanish because I'm Mexican.
Queso.
Yeah, and I've never seen anybody else do that, so yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. How was Christmas, though?
Yeah, Christmas was great. Being able to give my dad that car was
sick.
Was pretty awesome. I bought him the previous car that he had, but that car lasted for a little while, but then I think it had like a transmission problem and had something else going on. So it was going to be really expensive, and he was kind of stressed out, and he was talking about it a lot. And then the night before, we have all this on video, so we'll release a video of it. The night before, we had Santa Claus. He stopped in at my in-laws' house and on Christmas Eve, and he asked Santa Claus for a transmission. Oh. And he was like, yeah, my car blew up. He was telling Santa Claus and everything. And then anyway, so my wife went and bought the car, and it was a big surprise. And My dad didn't know, anything about any of this, so we went for a 10-minute walk with him on Christmas morning, at around 7 o'clock, and I actually took him past the car that we gave him, and he goes, "Wow!" He's like, "That's a nice car." He's like, "That looks like a mini version of your car," and I was like, "Yeah, it does, right?" and and we just kind of kept walking because it was like my wife parked it like on our block, but kind of down the street from us, and then we came back around, and then my wife parked it in his driveway while we were coming around the corner, and then he saw the car and he just flipped out. My mom was flipping out, and it was really cool. It's just, I mean, it's amazing to be able to do that. Everyone that has parents that have been there for everything knows how special that is to be able to do something like that. So my parents, they don't require me to do anything like that. Obviously, like that's just something that I wanted to do, and just something that makes me feel good. I like to give back. I like to give, and that was a good opportunity to do that.
Dude, that's awesome. Congrats on being able to get your papa something cool like that.
Yeah, it was awesome. And then, my kids on I think maybe about 2 days before Christmas, my wife and my kids and myself all went over to my parents' house, and my brother, and my parents just spoil us with gifts. They give us so much stuff. Even me to this day, I'm 42 years old, and they still just buy me tons of stuff. They bought Chris tons of stuff. And my kids just like, I mean, I swear they probably opened up at least 10 presents each just from them two. And I'm like, man, like Christmas is still a few days away, and like these kids are gonna get bombarded with so much stuff. But my parents, they love making things special. They love making like a big occasion of it, and like not every gift is this huge gift. It's a lot of smaller stuff, but they're smart. They know that kids just kind of like know the numbers. They know like, oh, these presents are really stacking up.
Yeah, because if they get one big box full of everything, it's just, I got one present this year.
And they're all about like making things fair. So they gave Quinn this stuff and Jake that stuff, and they gave Quinn more stuff than Jake. And so the last present they gave to Jake was a tree that had money on it.
Oh, cool.
And they're like, this, the money on the tree is because we spent more money on Quinn's stuff. So that's the kind of leftover,
They had to balance it out.
Yeah. It was just crazy. But yeah, everything was super cool. I always love the holidays. I always love Christmas. And unfortunately, I don't really buy a lot of stuff for people like physically. I don't really get a chance to go out and buy stuff for everybody, but I've been doing better every year, so I'm happy that I'm happy that I guess lucky, more so is probably the way to put it. I'm lucky that my wife does a lot of that for me, so
yeah,
I don't have to put that much thought into it.
Yeah, this year was cool. I was able to, together for the first time since we've been together. This was the first Christmas that wasn't on credit.
There you go.
So that was really big for us.
Yeah.
Not having to, look back and be like, shit, we're still paying off last year's Christmas.
Right.
So that was huge, and we were able to give like all my nephews a bunch of Reebok shoes, which was really cool because, I know kids, they want toys, they want like video games and stuff. They want stuff they can like play with, but what they actually needed was like shoes, and so we were able to give all of my nephews like dope shoes. Like,
that's great.
Got my little nephew, he's, I don't even know how old, but he got little size 4 Reebok Classics.
Oh, that's awesome.
So dope. Yeah, it was really cool. And then got my parents like an old school record player.
Oh, that's awesome.
They had no idea. I was just, hey, do you guys still have your old records? And like, yeah, we have tons. Like, oh, can you get a box out? I want to check out, see what you guys have. And then when they opened it up, they were just like, what the heck? And they were so stoked. So it was cool, man. It was really fun.
That's great. It's great to be able to surprise people with stuff that they weren't expecting.
Yeah.
And it's just, the holidays are all about kids, and I think a lot of times adults are trying to plan like what they're going to do. And they're like, oh, we're going to have this for dinner and we're going to drink this. And it's like, and then they just make a frozen pizza for the kids or something. It's like, well, why don't you think of something a little bit more special for the kids? And why the hell would you just feed them frozen pizza if everybody else is eating something healthier? They're eating something better that tastes better. I mean, I don't know about how your kid is, but my kids, like, they'll eat a lot of the same things that they won't eat everything that we eat,
Mhm.
but for the most part, they'll make a good attempt towards it. They're not, they don't flip the table over and say, "I need mac and cheese," because we don't allow them to do that.
Yeah,
So.
we're trying to break some bad habits. It's tough because we do share her, time with her.
Hmm.
But for the most part, I mean, she eats way better than I ate when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Like way better. She loves salad, but she does love ranch.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Well,
she'll,
who doesn't?
yeah, right.
Hey,
So,
there's got to be some give and take, right, with
hmm
kids.
yeah, the only time we really run into problems is if there's like another kid there eating something.
Mm.
Like this kid got mac and cheese. Well, I want mac and cheese. Like, well, no, like you need more than that. That's the only time where it's like really an issue. But other than that, she eats exactly what we eat.
Yeah,
She
that's good.
loves Monster Mash. She loves steak. So it's going pretty good. Yeah.
That's great. Anyway, we're going to talk about some of the things that have kind of happened this year, some of the things that have transpired on Mark Bell's Power Project. Talk about some of the different places we ended up, and we're going to talk about our first guest. Can you guys guess who our first guest was
Yeah.
here
We'll see
on
it.
the Power Project?
Yeah, and it's funny because if you're on the Power Project channel right now, it's not even there. So yeah, right now I think the first guest on this channel is One-Legged Monster. What's his name? I can't think
Oh
of
yeah,
it.
Casey Mitchell.
Casey Mitchell, sorry.
Yeah.
So let's see, I don't know. I'll give people a chance.
People are saying Stan. They're
It
guessing.
was two people, but
Right.
one was kind of like a guest host and the other
Mhm.
person was the actual guest.
Mm-hmm.
5, 4,
No one's gonna get it.
3, 2.
It was Jen Wiederstrom
There you
and
go.
Matt Vincent. Yep. Someone said Donald Trump.
Yeah, that would have been cool.
Yeah, Jen Wiederstrom, and what an awesome way to kind of kick things off, having her on the show, and having our buddy Matt Vincent on the show as well, and he was kind of helping, ask questions. We actually had a really good. I thought it was a good conversation. We talked a lot about like sexual harassment and stuff, and just
Yeah.
and the reason why I mean, first of all, that was a really hot topic at the moment, but also Jen being the professional she is, being in the fitness space. There's a lot of men in the space. Obviously, there's a lot of females as well. But I wanted to get her take on it. I mean, sometimes it's just great to get a different perspective, sometimes from a different race or a different sex. Like, how are they seeing it? Like, what's their point of view? Because I don't know what it's like to be black. I don't know what it's like to be Mexican. I know what it's like to be white, and that's about it. I don't know what it's like to be a girl. I don't know. I don't know the different things that these different people face, and I love hearing from them because then I'll be like, I'll feel so stupid, but I'll be like, oh, shit, like I didn't understand that. Well, now I can be more understanding. Now I can be more sympathetic. Now I can be more human towards your reactions rather than just being like, that's stupid. Why would anybody act that way, or why would anybody think that way? And just kind of go about my own way all the time. It's like, well, what kind of way is that to live? Why not try to understand people a little bit better?
Yeah, and what was cool about that is like the actual podcast itself, like we had no equipment. We just had this empty room. We used like our cameras that we used to film out in the gym. So like the audio was was pretty bad. It was the best worst thing that could happen to me because I had the worst thing to try to correct in post, and so it was an experience, but it was cool because Jen was so great and everybody likes Jen Wiederstrom, so
She's awesome.
it didn't matter how bad it sounded. People were, they were stoked about it. And then after her, so this is just like in February, we had one Miss Andy Bell on the podcast.
Oh my God.
Which
Yeah, we
was-
need to get Andy Bell on the podcast again. That was fun.
Yeah, because it was just cool because you had Smokey on with you, but just hearing, how you and Cena worked together at the same place, and Smokey was like, "So you had a choice between Cena or Mark," but come to find out, it wasn't at the exact same time. But no, it was cool just hearing everything. How you had student loans that you didn't even want to pay for. You had zero credit or bad credit. And she's just like, well, hold on. Like, no, we need to fix this. And you're like, no, it'll be fine. She's like, no, it's not going to be fine. So that was a lot of fun.
Turns out I was right. It's totally fine.
Yeah, it all worked out. Let's see. Also in February, so this is towards the end of the month, Let's see. We had our first live stream. This podcast was not live before before I got my hands on it, but it was something that Mark had wanted to do since day one, and didn't really know what the hell I was doing. But our buddy Krusty Kev, he helped me out, and we figured it out, and we got this damn thing live, and we've been shooting from the hip ever since. And it's one of, like I've said it before, it's one of the best like parts of my day is like interacting with the people on the live chats, taking questions from them. You know, we got the people's coach, and then I'll say like I'm the people's voice because I get to ask questions for everybody.
Yeah.
It just makes everything so much more fun that it's live.
Yeah, it's great. It's great to have it be interactive, you know. And,
Yeah.
You know, that's something that I wanted from the beginning, and now we got that ability, and so it's great. You know, it's great to get feedback from people. It's great to see people at, you know, all these different shows and stuff that we go to. The Arnold Classic, you know, we have the Super Training Classic coming up. We have Los Angeles Fit Expo coming up, and we'll be there. And you know, it's great to see all these people and see all these fans, but it's great to get the instant feedback from Instagram, from Facebook, from YouTube, and to see the comments and to hear what you guys are into and hear what you guys like and everything like that. You know, so you know all that stuff makes a big difference.
Yeah. And then so also another another request of Mark's, or another goal for us, was we also wanted to be mobile. We wanted to kind of be able to, hey, so and so can do the podcast, but we have to do it at their place. Like, okay, let's make this thing mobile. So the first trip that we took was to Chuck Liddell's house.
Oh yeah.
So that was, I mean, I can't even explain what it felt like to get the text message from Mark saying, like, dude, we got the Iceman. It's like, hold on. Like, what do you mean? It was actually a conversation, because you were like, who is your favorite MMA fighter of all time? And I was like, and you're like, think old school. I'm like, oh, well, Iceman. He's like, that's who we're working on. He's like, we're going to get him.
Yep.
And then I got the text, and I was like, oh my God, dude, like, this is amazing. And like, we're going to his house. Like, interesting. All right. We get there, and his wife is like, who are you? Like, and, you know, he told nobody that we were going to be there, but we did it. You know, we set up in his living room, and it was sick just being able to communicate, to talk to somebody like that.
Yeah.
It was wild.
Somebody said, did Iceman have a good poop story? I don't know if we went there with him.
No, he, you know what? I mean, he had to be careful. He kind of looked like he was ready to just.
He moved around a lot. He looked like he was ready to throw some punches at us.
Yeah, that was, man, Iceman. That's amazing, dude.
You know who did have a good poop story, though? Was Steph Coan.
Yeah, she did.
She came loaded with a poop story.
Yeah, she was loaded for sure. Yeah, she had talked about how she pooped at their new gym, which at the time didn't have a bathroom, so she had to do it out back. And that may or may not be coming soon in animation form.
Animated poop story.
Animated poop stories, yeah.
I got to say that, you know, having a relationship, you know, move forward with Hayden and Steph has been like probably one of the better things, you know, in terms of our friendships and our the people that we, you know, collaborate with. That was probably one of the better things that happened in 2018, along with and this kind of took me by surprise, but I guess I shouldn't have been surprised. But Jay Cutler was amazing.
Yeah,
You know, having Jay Cutler here at Super Training was really, really cool, and it's just that's something I'll never forget. Like, he was awesome. He was just in every way, shape, or form. He was awesome. He came full circle as a person. I'm sure at one point he was so into bodybuilding that he was probably, you know, too busy for people or too one way to be sensitive towards anything else anybody else needed or wanted or whatever. And I'm sure that he tried his best not to be an asshole then, but he probably ended up being one just because he just didn't have the time. He was trying to be the best in the world, and I think at some point he kind of realized that. He kind of calmed down a little bit. He's retired from bodybuilding. He can chill a little bit more, and he's just fun to be around.
Yeah, I mean, that's in the category of episode of the year, guest of the year, he's number one for me. A couple reasons. One, of course, like somebody just mentioned, his name's Papa Clutch, mentioned his poop story. That was the absolute best poop story we've had this year by
It
far.
was amazing, yeah.
Not that the other ones aren't bad, but just it was so amazing. But th- it's one thing to like come here and be like, oh, like Andrew, like nice meeting you, blah blah blah. Like we had, great conversation. But outside of the podcast, he was so nice to me. I seen him at the San Jose Fit Expo. His booth was the biggest by far.
Yeah.
In a crowd of hundreds of people, he just kind of catches eyes with me and he's like, "Oh, hey." And he like flags me down. He tells me to come over here. And, he talks to me in front of everybody and he's just like, "Oh, so how's it going, man?" Like, just genuinely having a conversation with me. And I'm just like, does he not remember that I'm just me? Like, like he didn't care that I was like just the producer of the show. He didn't care that like I'm just a photographer. He was just like, no, that's my buddy from, Mark Bell's Power Project. And then, he of course he asked about you and, we decided we were going to work on some other things together. But like to me, he just genuinely is a good person. And that's why I feel like he's probably my favorite guest of the year.
Yeah, he was freaking
He
he was freaking awesome. I know that I want to have Andy back on the podcast again. I'd love to have my dad back on the podcast again. It's always fun to have family on. We obviously had my brother on a lot this year. We always have Jesse Burdick, Matt Vincent. Those are people that we probably need to re-up again.
Yeah.
Bring them back on, see what they got going on in their lives, see what they got to say. Speaking of Jesse Burdick, I got a phone call from Jesse Burdick yesterday, and he's like, "What are you doing Saturday?" I was like, "I think I'll be in Bodega." He's like, "Do you want to go to the fights?" And I was like, "Yeah, I do want to go to the fights."
Yeah.
So I'm going to LA and going to
Sick.
see Bonesy Jonesy
Hell
fight.
yeah.
That'll
Dude,
be,
that's amazing.
Yeah, I'm so pumped for it. And it's tickets through Jeff Nowitzki, who we've had on the podcast before. And I think he was on Rogan's podcast
He's on Rogan
this morning,
earlier.
I think.
Yeah, the Golden Snitch.
Yeah, talking about Bones Jones's positive results or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm super excited to go see it. I'm really interested to see what the hell will happen with that fight. It's crazy they switched it from it was in Vegas and then they switched it to Los Angeles because it they couldn't get it sanctioned in Vegas because of Bones Jones's test or whatever. But I guess the whole thing's all weird because he tested positive for the same thing he tested positive for before, but it wasn't long enough time period for him to get tested for it again. So it should have been. He still has like another month and a half of it. I guess officially being out of the system in the first place. So
what the heck?
They should have even known better than to even bother testing him because that stuff stays in your system for like 18 months or something. I don't even know. It gets to be confusing. But first of all, I'd say like hats off to Alexander Gustafsson for not caring.
Mm-hmm.
Like how cool is that? Like you would think like if you're the opponent and something shady's going on with the guy that you're going to fight, you'd be like, hey, you know what? Like, I have to get tested under the same rules he gets tested on, and my test was fine and his isn't. So I don't want to fight him. Like you figure he'd bitch or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but he's like, no, screw it, man. I'm game. And so they kept the fight going. But it's who the hell knows what really happens behind closed doors? Who knows what the real issue is? Maybe it's that. Maybe it's something bigger, and they're not saying because Bones Jones I think has gotten popped before for cocaine.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe that popped up again. And they just don't want to talk about it. Who the hell knows? You never really know the real story.
Yeah, and I'm sure Gustafsson is probably just thinking like, well, yeah, this is kind of what I signed up for anyway.
Yeah. Maybe the first time I fought him, maybe it wasn't clean anyway, or whatever.
Right.
It was interesting in we know some people that are in his circle, in Bones Jones' circle, and it's interesting, to hear their commentary on some of these things where they just don't think there's any possible way that he's even aware of some of this stuff, which sounds, you hear that story from some athletes, and you're like, that sounds ridiculous. How could the guy not know? But maybe I don't know. But also with Bones Jones, it's interesting too that he's somebody that trains hard when he trains, but then he got his own way of training where he might not show up on a certain day, or he might show up super late.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not as like focused as you would think an all-time great would be. But maybe that's like sometimes the people that are the greatest, sometimes they show you a new way.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Jordan did things a certain way. Kobe did things a certain way. Shaq did things a certain, like Shaq made it seem easy, right?
Yeah, and that was why him and Kobe always had beef.
Yeah.
Kobe beef. Because Kobe would be busting his ass every single day, and then Shaq would just kind of just hang out
And still kill everybody.
and still destroy it. Yeah.
And you got the you got the Brett Favre, and you have the Peyton Manning, right? Like Brett Favre seemed like I would want to be Brett Favre, or I'd want to hang out with Brett Favre.
Mm.
Peyton Manning, I mean, on the commercials and stuff, he's funny, but like to be a teammate of his, like it seemed like it might suck. Like he might yell at you all the time, right? You're not doing something the right way. You didn't run the right route or whatever.
Right.
Whereas with Favre, he seems more like, fuck it, man, don't worry about it. We'll get him next time.
The old gunslinger.
Yeah, like he seemed like he just had maybe a better attitude. But
Yeah.
anyway, I'm fired up to go to those fights.
That's cool, man. I'm happy for you. I didn't know you didn't even tell me about that.
I think there's a lot of good fights coming up on that card too. So
I'll check it out. But finally, so they didn't ask the exact question I was hoping for, but Mike Mumford asked what size shirt you're wearing. And I don't really care about that. I just care about the shirt itself. That is amazing.
it's a Power Bear shirt.
Yes.
I've been talking about Power Bears forever. So where some of this came about was through a lot of different weird ways, but there's first of all, in Northern California, this bear represents like a logo for NorCal.
Right.
The bear, right? And also in powerlifting, there's a group of people called Power Bears. And we used to kid around about it a lot. When I used to train with Jesse Burdick, we heard of this group of lifters that were Power Bears, that were like they're all lifted together, right? And then somebody else said, "Hey, like you know about the Power Bears?" And we're like, "Yeah, we know about the Power Bears. Like Jesse used to train one of the main guys for the Power Bears." And then somebody's like, "Oh," he's like, "You don't know about the Power Bears?" And we're like, "Well, what's the deal with the Power Bears?" And we're like, we don't know what you're talking about. We're like, well, they're homosexual. And we're like, oh, Power Bears. And Jesse's like, I kept wondering why the guy kept talking about my beard and stuff and how I'd fit in perfectly. He's like, I didn't know what that meant. I was like, well, I guess now we do know what it means, and I guess I'm not growing out a beard. Yeah, so then we just, would always tease each other about that. We'd talk about Power Bears, and now we made a shirt for it, the Power Bear shirt.
Love it.
There we go.
That's miscommunication there.
Don't look it up. Don't go on YouTube and don't look it up.
Definitely do not.
Because you might find big dudes in flannel shirts blowing cigar smoke in each other's faces.
Yeah. So going back to the year that was, we had Ron Penna on. I just wanted to kind of highlight him because I don't think he's done anything almost ever, and he's the CEO or founder of Quest Nutrition, and that guy was so interesting. It was just
he's a ninja.
Essentially, yeah.
He's a ninja.
Yeah, it was. The stories off air were amazing. Is all I'm gonna say.
Ron Penna could figure out the iCloud. And he could also dispose of a human body and have no one ever find out about it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a very versatile person.
Mm-hmm.
He could also do a split. He can also lift like a maniac. He lifted heavier than I did when we were training together. He was going nuts in there.
With better form.
And he's just a beast. I mean, intellectually, he's a beast. Physically, he's a beast. He's got a real strict, strict everything. Strict diet. He's strict about his sleep. He's strict about it. He's just... it doesn't compute with him. He doesn't understand like why you wouldn't try to do everything the best possible way. And it makes sense because he's had a lot of success that way. He's come out on top that way. And maybe for other people, they're like, the effort to try to be the best all the time is killing me. And maybe you don't get the same results. But this guy is one of the few that you've seen the effort that he puts in. He absolutely gets a lot out of it. And so that he likes that reward, and that's what he lives for. I mean, it doesn't matter what it is. It could be it could be just having a certain routine with his sleep, all the way from having a certain routine with his food, or whatever the hell it is. This guy's going to do it meditating, stretching, all this stuff. He figures out a way to maximize all of it, even with mobility stuff. He said, it's not about like stretching, and he showed me and Ben Greenfield. Ben Greenfield's another guest that we had on the show. That was great.
Mm-hmm.
But he showed Ben Greenfield and he showed us these stretches that he does that are not really, they're not really traditional stretches. He just said that all you got to do is do this like, a couple times a day, and then you're going to be able to do like a split. But it was just like, it was more like, I guess in some way it was a stretch, but it was more strength than it was anything. So, you'd get in like a split position and you would like resist against the ground, and then you would go out wider and you resist against the ground, you go out wider, resist against. So it's like, basically it's called PNF stretching. But anyway, Ron is going to find like the loophole. He's going to find the thing that's going to get you better faster in every single thing that he does,
Yeah. And then in the same month, we had a phone call with Eddie Hall.
Eddie Hall had a poop story.
He had an amazing poop story.
He was laughing his ass off. He's like, do I have poop stories?
Yeah.
Ha, 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 ha.
Yeah.
Remember how hard he's laughing?
Yeah. It was such a bummer. We still were trying to figure stuff out. So like the phone sounded terrible, but I mean, we fought through it, and
yeah, we had a weird click going on.
Yeah. There's like some pops and clicks every time someone stopped talking.
No one cared though.
No,
that
it
podcast
was so good.
Was great.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Yeah. And then also that month we had we filmed at Chris Bell's house, and we had Drew Logan on, and I'm bringing him up because while we kind of turned into vegetables over the Christmas Day, we actually watched the show that he was on called Strong on Netflix.
Oh, cool.
Spoiler alert, he doesn't win, but it was cool because Stephanie was like, oh yeah, I found this, it's like they work out and they try to have the best transformation and they do all these challenges. So it's called Strong, and it's really visually. She's like, what? I was like, yeah, Drew Logan's on there. I was like, he's my buddy. She's like, really? I was like, well, I mean, we're not like besties or nothing, but yeah, I know the guy.
But there he is right there. He's
yeah.
on now.
Yeah, and that's what happened. And she's like, no way. I'm like, yeah, he's freaking cool. I told her about Lucky the dog, how he has to, he senses his cortisol levels, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I just wanted to bring that up because it was like topical for us right now because we just finally saw the show. And
stuff was wild with the dog and everything like that.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Yeah. But other than him, we had someone named Stan Efferding in April also.
Rhino.
And that was one of the most popular episodes because that was really...
Why does everything seemed like it was so long ago? That's not that long ago.
No. Yeah, I mean, that was around my birthday. So it was like... It was at a time where the vertical diet was really picking up steam. So when he came on here, it just... I mean, it skyrocketed everything into the atmosphere with vertical diet.
He owes us a lot of money. That's what you're trying to say.
I'm saying, without us, nobody would even know what.
The least the guy could do is pay for our crank.
If you guys seen that piece of shit on Instagram, you know how tough it is to get this thing started.
We're running this entire show off of that thing.
Yeah, dude, it's terrible.
Rough around here.
Yeah, but anyway, and then shortly after that, we move into May. We have Ed Coan. And that was another super popular episode because we had, the GOAT was here. And
Ed Coan is amazing for so many different reasons. He taught so many of you guys how to squat and how to deadlift via our YouTube channel. But the things I've learned from Ed, just seeing how he interacts with people, he just cares.
Yeah.
He'd come in here and he'd ask you some questions about your training, and then whatever you said to him, he'd remember it the next time. Somehow.
Right.
They'd be like, "Hey, Andrew, you still having a hard time with that that deadlift, or the technique and stuff help?" And he'll like remember a bunch of shit about you. He'll remember your fiance's name and shit like that. He's a remarkable person.
Yeah, no, he slid into my DMs not too long ago, and he just kept reaching out and telling me like a couple things here and there. And then we were working on a project. Ryan Soper, he's working on a personal project where I had to actually call him for like a phone interview. And we spent like 15 minutes just talking about me lifting. And I'm like, holy shit, like, dude, Ed Coan's telling, he's he's like, I see everything. He's like, I see your progress. He's like, you're doing what I used to do, which is like power building.
You start looking around. You're like,
right,
you see everything? You saw me picking my nose?
Yeah, I was like, oops, I didn't think it was. Like, can you not tell anybody what I was doing from this time to this time? Because
One of the best things that there's a few things that he shared with me that are uh, just ridiculous and amazing. But years ago, I was having trouble with one of the members of Super Training Gym, and the guy was actually a friend and stuff too. And it was like becoming problematic. I mean, it was affecting my training, and it was affecting the gym, and it just sucked. It was just murky. I'm sure everyone's been through that before in their lives, where there's just a little bad blood, and bad blood ends up in the air, and it's just everyone can kind of sniff it out, right? But what Ed told me is, he said, listen, man, he goes, just keep it real simple. Be nice and be good to those who are good to you, and don't do anything else. And I was like, I let that sink in. I was like, okay, by my standards, I don't think this person's being very good to me. So what am I going to do about it? I'm just going to only be good to the people that are good to me. Like, and yeah, sometimes you do have to confront somebody. Sometimes you do have to tell somebody, hey, look, I don't like the way you're treating me, or I don't like this or that or whatever. But what I've learned is by being good to the people that are good to you and focusing in on that, and not chasing after people that don't want to be part of your life, not chasing after people that don't care about you, is that you save a lot of time, you save a lot of energy, and on top of that, and a lot of people aren't going to believe this, but shit just seems to work out. It really does. Like it will just work out. I've never had to kick anyone out of this gym. They kick themselves out. Something will happen. They'll show their true colors, and they're just not welcome here anymore. They will. It just works out that way to where they end up wearing out their welcome, or they end up breaking the rules, several times, and then that they end up working their way out of it. Because look, the rules are black and white. This is what we do here, and this is what we don't do here, and that's it. And you go back to that, be good to those who are good to you. Well, what about, YouTube comments? What about Instagram comments? What about, well, why don't I just focus on the people that are being good to me? Hey, Mark, I love the stuff you put out. Hey, man, thank you so much for watching. You're awesome. Thanks. Have a great day. Why not concentrate on that rather than the person who's like, do steroids or whatever, whatever negativity they want to spin, or, whatever, you still look fat, or, so-and-so, Larry Wheels is stronger, or this guy got leaner, or whatever the hell, the comments that you guys face on a daily basis. Think about that statement, be good to those who are good to you, and don't do anything else. And it can really, really save you a lot of stress.
Yeah. This is pretty crazy when we're talking about, like, dude, that seems like so long ago, but it wasn't that long ago at all. But you were at Body Power, the expo in the UK.
The UK.
And you hung out with Half Thor, and you got him, you recorded a little podcast just on your phone, right?
Yeah, and you know what? That hurt my shoulder because he's like he's like 8,000 feet tall.
Yeah.
And that guy surprised me too. All I know of Strongman is I know Brian Shaw, and I don't know anybody else in the community. So, and we know Alan Thrall. He's here in Sacramento as well. So like we got some friends in the sport, but we don't really like know people that closely. And I never really talked to Hapthor before. So I don't know. Sometimes you just think that somebody's going to be an asshole, for some random reason, and who knows why. I kind of thought he was going to have a chip on his shoulder. Maybe I thought that because, Brian is with us. He's with Slingshot, and then they have a rivalry and stuff. But no, there was none of that going on at all. I mean, I'm sure that, there's animosity built up between the two because they're so highly competitive against each other. But he didn't care. I was communicating with him, and he was like, yeah, man, come over to the booth and come, we can talk for however long you want. Like, he was super cool. And I went over there and, held my camera up over my head, trying to, film him the whole time or get the audio piece from him anyway. And, we had one of our guys step in, one of the guys out in the UK, Chris, right?
Yeah.
Our boy, Chris, he stepped up and, he was able to actually film it. And we were able to get, some really good commentary from him, and we learned a lot about him. We learned a lot. There's these big, strong guys that everyone is always fascinated with. Like, we're big softies, man. When you break us down, we got feelings, and we get depressed and we get upset just like everybody else. And I was really thankful for Hapthor sharing that with us, because I don't think that anybody, I think a lot of people would be surprised to understand how many people that are second and third and they're not quite coming out on top, how depressed and how upset they really are. And also, maybe that's a time period of their life that maybe they wouldn't be second or third if they could fix some other things in their life, straighten some other things in their life out so they're not as stressed out. If they could figure out a way to mitigate some of that, they could probably take the steps forward that are necessary to become number one, just like he did. And it was great to see him come out on top. And we love Brian Shaw over here. We're always going to be loyal to the Shaw family, but at the same time, it was remarkable to watch Hapthor come out on top. And I appreciate the time he spent with us, and then he also spent time with us later on in Malibu.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right after that, when you got back from the UK, it was just a cool podcast moment. It was one of the things that probably no one's even going to recognize, but we came in, we trained, we killed ourselves, we podcasted, we did like a Q&A thing with the fans, and then right as we shut everything down, we're talking and we're like, all right, cool, man, it was a great day, like we got everything in. We already said bye. You stop me and you're like, hey, CT Fletcher's out of the hospital and he said he can talk to us right now. I'm like, let's do it. So, we were, the high and low of whatever of like, training and then podcasting and then like, cool, we're done for the day. Like, let's go home. And it's like, oh, wait, no, let's climb this other mountain and let's get shit done. And we did it. And, it was cool hearing from CT. And that was the first time that he had spoken to anybody since basically dying a couple times, and then coming back from the dead to be who he is now. It was huge. And it was it got me so fired up for doing this podcast just because we just did more of it and it just felt better. We killed ourselves the entire day and then we just like signed up for more.
Yeah.
And we're just like, oh my God. Like, I think for me personally, I think that's where like I really turned the corner of not seeing it necessarily as like a job or whatever. It was just like, it's just, I can't even explain what it feels like, but I just know that was the day where I was like, dude, like this is what I'm supposed to be doing now.
CT Fletcher, there's no other way to put it. He's great.
Yeah, and it definitely didn't suck that it was CT.
Yeah, he's great, and he's got great perspective on things. He has I'm really looking forward to spend more time with him again too, and get him on the podcast again. He's a wonderful person. I think he's one of those few people that can really break down some barriers for a lot of people in terms of like fitness and in terms of race and stuff. I think he just has a way about him. Like he's been on every which side you can think of. He's been abused. He's been somebody that has had to persevere over all kinds of different things, even just his own. We all know how hard it is to battle against ourselves. He has some traits that he definitely was not proud of. He's somebody who's not afraid to make fun of himself a lot, and I think people find that to be really inspiring as well. But now to see him out of the hospital and to see him training as hard as he is, and he's like riding his bike and like, did you see him run and just crash and burn on the pavement?
Yeah. Oh man, that made me. I was genuinely like sad. Like I saw that and I was just like, oh no, pops, like But he's just like he used different words, but like screw it, I'm gonna get back up and keep going because this is what I do.
Yeah, I heard somebody else tell a similar story, and getting old is I'm getting older, but I'm not 70, and I'm not 80.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody was telling me the story about someone that like they just kept wanting to walk and they kept hurting themselves, and then finally the person said to him like, well, look, man, like just why don't you just stop walking? And they're like, well, if I stop moving, I'm going to die.
Mm.
I want to be able to keep moving. And so if I fall down, then I'll just try to keep figuring out a way to get up. And if it gets to a point where I can't get up anymore, then that's it. And it's like, shit, man. Well, that actually kind of makes some sense. It sounds irrational in a way, but it also makes a lot of sense because being alive isn't enough. You have to live. You have to like really live your life, and something more has to come of it. So it's definitely something that, like you don't want to see CT Fletcher fall on his face like that. But at the same time, it's all about getting back up. And then now he's like riding his bike, and I think
Mm-hmm.
he benched 225 for a
Damn it.
couple reps or something on a Smith machine that he cheated a little bit. No, maybe he did it I don't remember now. Now I can't remember,
Mm.
but like I know that he benched like 225 for some reps or something. Look, man, that guy, we talk about being made of something different. That guy's made of something different. Did we do Chad Mendez? Was that
So yeah, I mean, he's somewhere in here. I have a bunch of stuff. One guest I didn't want to overlook because you guys were really close in the short time that you guys had with each other. But in June, brought us Jason Harriston, your brother from another mother, basically. And unfortunately, he's no longer with us. But it was. We've had a couple people where it's like, oh my gosh, the similarities between you two is crazy. But I remember, you know, we faded to black, so I don't even know if it made it on to the show. But he's just like, oh my gosh, you're like the brother I didn't know
mm,
I had. I was just like, oh my gosh, like that's crazy. And then to hear that he's no longer with us, it was just like, whoa, dude, like that hit pretty hard.
yeah, it was like a lot of these things they're confusing. Like you don't understand. You try to make sense of some of it, and then you're like, well, why was that person like how did he come into my life for such a flash, and then he was
Hmm.
out. Um, but a really interesting thing happened with Jason. Um, Jason Harrison, he's the owner. Harriston was the owner of Kuyu, and he built up another brand called Sitka. He built that brand up. He sold it, and then he built up Kuyu, and Kuyu is just down the street from us in Dixon, California. We're in West Sacramento. He's not very far away. As soon as he and I connected, yeah, we did find tons and tons of similarities. Jason and I were trying to communicate with each other a lot, and I didn't understand who Jason was exactly, and I didn't know how popular he was. Or I didn't know if he was way busier than me. I didn't know if his business was a lot more successful. I didn't know what was going on. But all I knew is that I was communicating with a friend of his that I thought was like a publicist or something. It ended up being Patrick, who's just like his buddy and his wingman, but I guess, ended up being like his assistant in some way. And so I was just trying to arrange some time to see Jason. And I was like, man, how can I not connect with this guy? I don't understand. Like, he's here in town. He's got this great business. All I want to do is showcase his business, but maybe he doesn't understand. Like, yes, this is a podcast run by a power lifter, but it's not all power lifters all the time. We do other things. We want to find fascinating, inspiring people. We have CEOs. We have world record power lifters. We have Mr. Olympia champions. I mean, we got all kinds of strongman champions. We got all kinds of people that are just champions in a bunch of different fields. We had the owner of Stevia on here, or Zevia
Hmm.
rather. I mean, we got all kinds of different people, and they may not be extraordinary when it comes to performance. So I was just like, man, how come I can't get this guy on the show? And so Casey, who he is our shipping and receiving guy here at Slingshot, he had some connections to Jason, and we're still trying to figure it all out. And I don't know, it just wasn't working out. We just couldn't figure it out. And finally, Patrick and I connected. We started to work out some times, and then through knowing Jason, so here's something weird that happened because I only knew him for just a handful of months, as Andrew mentioned. Before he ended up tragically taking his own life, he had some, I guess you'd say, mental disorders from as a result of playing football, and so he, just hitting his head many times, all the concussions, however you want to say it, and he suffered from some severe depression. Anyway, so he comes here, we do the podcast, we hit it off, and I mean, yeah, it does seem like we're cousins or brothers or
Hmm.
something. I mean, we were like relating on every possible level. The only difference is he's tall and skinny and I'm not. But everything else was so identifiable. Um, he was really big into football, and he reached a high level with football, and he was a pro in that. And then he switched gears and turned his passion for sports and turned his passion for hunting into a multi-million-dollar juggernaut business. And he's just kind of been off to the races ever since that point. But a weird thing that happened kind of along the way, he lived in Dixon because his wife is in Dixon. I live in Davis because my wife's from Davis. Um, he had a his wife had a Range Rover. My wife has a Range. Like it just those are just some of the small stuff. But as we kept going down the road, it was like, oh my God, okay. Here he had 2 children. He had a boy and a girl. I have a boy and a girl. Like it just kept going on and on and on forever, where a couple things seemed like, oh, it's just a normal coincidence. Like, yeah, we're similar age and like all these things make sense. But then it started getting weird,
Yeah.
it just started like everything started like really getting so similar. And I'm like, man, and when Patrick would describe how Jason was to us, we were like, oh, that sounds familiar.
Yeah.
We're like, man, this is really getting to be strange.
Yeah.
But one of the things that happened that was really interesting, and maybe this is a reason why he was around, was Scott Fuller, who we went and filmed for the War on Carbs commercial that we shot. Um, Scott Fuller is a doctor, and he's a high level professional. He had a lot of success on the War on Carbs diet, so we wanted to document that. And so we went and we filmed some stuff with him. He lost about 60 pounds from being on a diet. But we reconnected. Scott Fuller is a family member, but I reconnected with Scott Fuller and connected back to him and got him on this diet in the first place from hanging out with Jason, because Jason used to be his roommate when they played football together for UC Davis. And so I was hanging out with Jason, and he and I were shooting the shit, and I said, hey, you know what? I said, do you know Scott Fuller? He goes, oh, yeah. He goes, I know Scott Fuller. He goes, Dr. Death. And I was like, what? He goes, yeah. He goes, he's Dr. Death. He's like, at least that's what he used to call himself when we played football. I was like, oh, he called himself that, huh? And so I screwed with him, and I texted Scott, and I had them both in a text thread. And I was like, what's up, self-proclaimed Dr. Death? I'm like, hanging out with your old roommate. And Scott wrote back, he's like, screw him. He's like, I didn't make up that nickname. And we were just like giving each other shit. And it kind of just kind of sparked everyone being all fired up, and we were just having a lot of fun with each other. But that conversation with Scott that reunited he and I, then he fell going down the stairs that one day, tore his like meniscus, tore his ACL, tore parts of his quad, and had a major setback, ended up gaining lots of weight, ended up being severely depressed. Because he and I reconnected, he reached out and was like, man, I got to do something. We got him on the War on Carbs diet. We got him fired up to start training, and he lost 60 pounds. So it's like, as weird as it might be, like maybe he was just maybe he was inserted into my life for a period of time for some of that. Maybe he was into my life for a period of time just to get me fired up and to make sure everything here keeps chugging along the way that we think is best.
Mm-hmm.
And like, who knows? But like a lot of good came from it, and it sucks that he's not here anymore. But that guy, when I went to his funeral, it was insane to watch. All the different places he's been, all the different people he's impacted. Donald Trump Jr. was at his funeral. James Hetfield was at his funeral. There was professional baseball players there. The entire UC Davis football team that he played football with was there. The speeches that were given, it was insane. And I was like, okay. I'm like, this dude's like, he's only 4 years older than I am. I'm like, I got a lot of work to do, man. I'm like, I'm thinking, man, like this is a story of somebody that what would have been like 90, like
Mm-hmm.
he just did so much in such a short period of time. So it did suck that, things ended up the way that they did, but that guy really lived his life to the fullest. And it made me just think to myself, like, man, like, not only do I need to work harder, but man, I really need to enjoy the moments, because you never know what's coming your way, really.
Yeah. And I mean, I know you just said there's so many crazy similarities, but like Dixon and Davis are like, what, 5 minutes apart?
Yeah.
And it's just like, that's crazy. And when you talk about like him playing football, it's like, yeah, he played for the 49ers, like he didn't just play football, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah,
that's how crazy his story is, though. They didn't even mention that he played in the NFL.
Yeah. I mean, it was, I was kind of scrolling through some just like news articles and
Mm-hmm.
stuff, and I didn't even want to click on it because I didn't want to read if they spun it towards CTE or something,
Right.
like just because I knew him personally. I didn't want to, any bad thoughts going through my head. But there was an article talking about a former 49er linebacker
Yeah.
passing or, committing suicide.
Right.
But that was the most I had seen coming out of the 49ers from,
Right.
him passing. But yeah, so I mean, like you said it when we found out, like, once somebody's on the podcast, they're part of our crew, and so it was a sad day when we lost him.
Yep, we got some good memories from it. At least we got some video, got some pictures with the
Yeah.
guy, and I'm just glad that he was, even though it was a short period of time, I'm just glad he was, part of our lives.
Yeah.
For the moment that we had him.
Moving forward, same month is when Hani Rambad had you commit to doing a bodybuilding show on the podcast. Yeah.
Yeah, and so that ended up being pretty crazy too, because then I saw Jason like maybe 2 months later, and he's like, "What the hell?" He's like, so we were at Smokey and I went out to Colorado to a trade show that Jason invited us to, and I was just shredded, like veins just kind of popping at it everywhere. He's like, "What the fuck's going on?" He's like, "What are you doing?" Because Jason was all into being jacked too, and he was like, "Holy shit!" Yeah, so Hani called me out on the podcast itself. And I'd have to say, out of all the years of podcasting, that has to be the biggest and most impactful moment that's ever really happened. Because what else could top that? So, I mean, that led to a lot of things. As weird as some of this sounds, that led to me having kind of a new audience of fans. It led to us on the podcast having a new audience of fans who like that kind of stuff, that are into bodybuilding or that just are into the personal journey of getting yourself in shape and forever. I mean, think about how crazy that is. Forever, I have those photographs of me hitting the stage like that, and that's awesome. I have that moment, encapsulated in time to where I could say, "Hey, look, you know what? I did it." Like when it comes to getting in shape, like I was able to do it. I did a good job of it, and I was able to get up on a stage and do something that, like, under normal circumstances, I would never, I'd never want to do anything like that, So that was cool that he called me out, got me out of my comfort zone, got me to try a little something different, and I got something different that I'm going to try coming up too, which I'm excited about. And I'll share with you guys about it, but I think I'm going to get a little deeper into it before I go bringing it up, before I go talking about shit that I don't know anything about.
Now I'm getting nervous to figure out what that is.
Don't worry, it doesn't involve anal.
Well.
I mean, it can. I mean,
can it then?
I should rephrase that.
So initially it doesn't, but so anyway, that led to. I don't know if it was just coincidence or we kind of started steering that way, but we started kind of reaching out to more bodybuilding type people. So right after that, that's when we had Jay Cutler. We just got done talking about him. But then right after that in July is when we hung out in Malibu for an entire month. Well, you hung out there for an entire month. I hung out there for a little while. And you just had just a bunch of interesting guests out there at the beach house. And the beach house itself, I mean, we can take a moment. It was funny. While I was down there the second time, Stephanie texted me a picture. She was watching Spanglish, and she like froze the,
Yeah, there's a lot of movies and TV shows from down that way.
Yeah, she was like, "Oh my gosh, there's the house," and I'm like, "No way!" And I'm like, "Oh, sick."
Yeah.
So yeah, we were hanging out at a pretty popular spot. But yeah, you had all kinds of cool people down there. You had Half Thor on again. You had Stone Cold.
My God, Stone Cold. We got to get Stone Cold here in studio.
Yeah.
That's it. You know what, people? I'm going to start pressing them. And maybe you guys can help me. Maybe you guys can help me on Instagram. Maybe you can start smashing them and tell them, hey, get your ass over to Sacramento. He rolls through here every once in a while because he goes from L.A. to Reno. Here and there, so we got to get him, in house here.
Just
but
hijack him there.
I've been on his podcast a couple times. He's been on mine a few times, and I just, it's always amazing. He's an amazing person. It's always so cool when you meet high level people, and they're not just high level in their profession, but they're just high level people in general. And you're like, damn, like this guy operates at a different level than a lot of other people, and he almost like. With Stone Cold, it's really interesting too because, like, you hear him talk about The Rock or you hear him talk about John Cena, And he's like, man, my hat goes off to those guys. He's like, they just work their ass off, and he's like, I don't understand how they can do that. But here's Stone Cold working his ass off,
Yeah.
having his own hustle. But also too, Stone Cold's smart enough to realize, like, in terms of like filming movies and that kind of, it's just not, he doesn't really love that. He doesn't love being away. He doesn't love the travel and all the stuff that he's had to do in the past. He's kind of, he's happy with doing his TV show. He's happy with doing his podcast, and that's how he keeps himself happy and motivated.
Yeah, and that was the first time we had Big Doug Frouchet on the podcast. Our boy Big Doug.
Bodybuilding.
Yeah, so again, more bodybuilding. Justin and Stephanie Lovato, which were a really cool couple to have on. And then out of the bunch, and Mike Catherwood was great also. We got to get him down here too.
Justin and Stephanie are really good. People should go back and listen to that. People that are into fitness, that are couples, should definitely listen to that together, because they just had some interesting takes on how they care for one another and how they make things work. They both have a business in fitness as well. So that might be something that might interest you guys quite a bit.
Yeah. Our boy Bobby Ray just mentioned Hunter McIntyre.
Oh my
that
God.
guy's an animal.
Hunter McIntyre. We have to have Hunter McIntyre here again. That's for sure.
Yeah, and then out of the bunch, no disrespect to all of the awesome guests that came out, but Tito Raymond, hearing his story. I mean, just when you think that like you've heard somebody's like comeback story and you're just like getting fired up, you hear his story and it's just like, oh my gosh, I'm so lazy. I've done nothing with my the awesome hand that I've been given, you know, and it's like, so, especially like, as a parent now, it's like hearing his story and seeing where he's taking his kids, and it's like, dude, that's somebody that I look up to.
Sometimes
like,
you have to hear a worse story, a bad story from somebody else to realize how good you have it.
Right.
As it might not seem like that makes sense, but that's just the truth of it. When you hear someone's hardship and sorrow and all the different things they had to go through, you're like, okay, man, like I got things pretty good.
Yeah, and I mean that's definitely the case with him, and it just, like I said, man, his episode is so motivating. If you want to feel lazy and you need someone to light a fire under your ass,
hard-working son of a bitch.
Yeah, that's the episode. And then moving forward to August, again, more bodybuilding. We had Branch Warren here. Guy is crazy.
Yeah, Branch Warren was awesome. It was a great experience to train with him.
Yeah.
Really intense, and it's like, you know what? Listen, man, that guy had no business, being as awesome as he was as a bodybuilder, but he wasn't going to take no for an answer.
Yeah.
He's a lot shorter than a lot of the other athletes, even though bodybuilders are short anyway. He's very short. And he wasn't going to let his height dictate anything. He got big enough. He got lean enough. He was able to win the Arnold Classic, I believe. I think he finished second in the Olympia. I mean, the guy was an absolute beast. And then also, too, this is something I've said on this podcast many times over, is that you don't want to be known. Like, what is Branch Warren known for? Is he known for being an IFBB pro? Kinda. You know what he's actually really known for? He's known for being a savage.
Yeah.
He's known for just putting it down. He's known for just working his ass off, and that's what you want to be known for. That's what you want. That's how you're going to get recognition in the first place, and that's how people are attracted to that. And success is attracted to that. When you work hard, success is going to come your way. You don't have to go towards it.
Yeah, and just hearing his stories about Metroflex, how there's basically a tornado rolling through the gym, and he's just like, I'm just going to keep working out because where else am I going to go?
It's leg day, bro.
Yeah, like, oh my gosh, like, dude, come on. But then he hooked us up with Wicked Cuts Jerky, and that stuff was amazing. I don't know if you had any, but it was so good. And that's the jerky that he's selling.
Yeah. I remember he had some. I had some while he was here, but I couldn't indulge because it's on that bodybuilding kick.
Yeah, and that was the month of your bodybuilding show. So,
and then we had you mentioned quickly Mike Catherwood, which is amazing because Mike Catherwood's on TV all the time, and so every time my kids are tired of hearing about it because I tell them, I'm like, oh, there he is. I was like, he was at the house, remember? And they're like, yeah, we heard you say it 5,000 times. And then Jake messes with me. He's like, oh, Dad. He's like, is that the guy that came on your podcast? I'm like, yeah.
Yeah. Now, he has a you guys have so many different things you can connect on. You know, football, uh, certain supplements,
Right.
and whatnot. But yeah. So I'm excited to get him here.
Yeah.
I think that'll be really cool.
Yeah, he's down too, so I need to hit him up.
Like I
That'd
think
be
we gotta do some podcast stuff, but I really want to do stuff on the main YouTube channel with him because
yeah.
he has a character where he pretends to be like a super like cholo from like East LA. Like, oh, it's so funny.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah. And then we had Shaw here in the house for a little while. He was here for a couple days, but we recorded a podcast with him. That was another huge episode. One of the things he said that really stood out to me was he's like, you know, I faced everybody at the top of their game while I've been hurt. He's like, so right now, if I have a great buildup, there's no way I can lose. And it's like because I'm invested now in Brian Shaw. I've been to his house multiple times. The first time anybody heard my voice on this podcast was actually in his garage in Colorado. You know, I know his family. So when I hear stuff like that, that gets me really fired up. And you know, no disrespect to Half Thor or anybody or any of the other competitors, but it's like, dude, that's my boy. I want him to win. You know, if I get a chance to meet Half Thor, like I'll be, you know, grateful and very respectful. But at the end of the day, I want Shaw to be, you know, number one. And so having him here, hearing that his spirit hasn't been broken at all, not that he's going to admit it or anything or even show it, I guess,
Right.
but like believing it and seeing it in his eyes that he still has the fire, that was huge.
He's fired up.
Yeah, it was really cool to see him again.
Hell yeah. Well,
Yeah.
Everybody loves Brian Shaw.
Yeah. In October, we had a cool guest. I'll just really run through it real quick, but Jessica Smith, fertile female.
Oh yeah, the fertile one.
Yeah, it was cool hearing her background, and you know,
Ladies and gentlemen, still single, by the way. So if you want to call, you can call the number down below, 555-5555.
extension 555.
555.
Yeah, at Jessica Smith on Instagram. We had her, but we also had who I think was the most informational guest, I guess I'll say.
I think informative.
Informative? Is that okay? I don't sprechen.
Informational is probably not bad though, but I think informative.
Informative probably makes more sense.
Arist.
I don't know. English is my second language. Slang being the first one. Dr. William Davis, Wheat Belly.
Yeah, he was great.
He lit us all on fire.
Yeah, and you know, it's great when you have someone like Stan has done this many times. Every time Stan comes into town, we immediately start adopting, you know, more things that Stan's doing, and some things come and some things go. But like, I don't know about you, but a lot of the things Stan has said or taught us, they're still in my head. You know, when I go to do something, or like Stan has said, the things that we do for ourselves are always going to impact us way more than the things that we have done to ourselves. So like, you know, you taking care of injuries before they happen and you warming up properly is better than you going and getting massage therapy. They're both good, but something that you do for yourself can be better than something you have done to yourself. And William Davis was, he shared a lot of things that stuck with me as well. The vitamin K, the vitamin D, the fish oil, some of the things that you can do to help with your cholesterol, and some of the kind of falsehoods surrounding cholesterol, and some of the things he shared about I think your dad's situation.
Yeah.
And you know, he was like, okay, well, you know, we got to make sense of this. Your dad already has some unnatural things going on because he's had some surgeries, and so he's like, he's got to kind of follow what the doctor says at this point. You know, to some extent, maybe not so much with the food, but with the medications. You know, you sometimes, and that's great to have someone come in here that has that much experience, explain that to us that way. And he just really broke down, you know, the diet stuff very easy. He wasn't crazy about anything, but he was just saying, hey, look, man, we got to cut back on grains and sugar. He just kept hitting it over the head, grains and sugar. He just kept smashing it. And it's like, you know, that was really helpful. He had a lot of great advice.
Yeah, and you hit it right on the head because, you know, he talks about how, I don't know why I'm burping so much. The kratom's coming up.
Oh, yeah, those burps are great, aren't they?
Oh, dude, you can taste it. I don't know, it kind of makes me feel like it's working twice as hard. But how he questioned, you know, the medical field and, you know, why are they doing this, why are they doing that. And then everything he was saying where it's like not that I set him up on purpose, but it was like, hey, well, this happened. What do you have to say about that? And he's like, oh, well, no, because your dad has had surgery. He needs to keep taking the medication that the doctors are prescribing. But then he gave us some tips on some other things that we need to be doing.
Right.
But he wasn't just like so far on one side to just be like, it's got to be this way. My way's the right way. They're all wrong. And then it's like, what about this? Okay, well, they're right there, but, we can meet in the middle on that one.
Right.
So it was just cool knowing that he was saying what was right in his mind, not just something to be outlandish and get attention for, whatever, 15 minutes of fame.
Right.
So that was huge. In the same month, we had the IPF stuff kind of happen.
Oh, yeah. IPF approval.
Yeah, we announced it here.
Talked about the X sleeves and all that stuff.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, everything the X sleeve got overturned.
Yep.
And so we mentioned it here first before we talked about it on the main YouTube channel and before, we mentioned stuff on Instagrams and whatnot. So for people following this podcast, watching it live, you get to hear a lot of cool stuff here first, which is nice.
I got a lot of feedback, and this is just because our listeners are a bunch of perverts, but I got a lot of feedback from Gabrielle Lyon being on the podcast.
Yeah.
I got people would message me and be like, "Yeah, what's her deal, man?" And it's like, "What do you mean?
What's her deal?
What do you mean? What is her deal? I don't know. No one's ever asked that about anybody else we've ever had on the show."
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, around that same time, we had our boy Gavin Murphy.
Yeah, he was great.
Dude, he's just, like I said, he's one of those guys where I'm just so fortunate to be, in this business to where I get to meet and interact with people. But talking to him, he's like, man, I struggled my whole life just to weigh 170 pounds. I'm like, dude, that's where I'm at right now. And then he's just he's a nice guy. We'll have conversations every now and again. But how good was his food when you were down in Malibu?
Oh man, it was great. Yeah, he cooked for the wifey and I, and he's a chef, so I mean he knows what's up, and he does catering for some really high level actors and actresses and stuff. So that guy knows his way around the kitchen, that's for sure.
Yeah, in the category of surprise guest of the year, that's an actual category. This guy's gonna get a big old trophy sent to him in the mail, just because I had no idea. I had no anything about him, but Anthony J.
Oh yeah,
the guy that freaked us all out with plastics and all the estrogen in the water and everything. It's funny because everybody here meal preps. We use basically whatever we can, containers we can get. As soon as he left, everybody switched over to glass.
Yeah, everyone's like, we're gonna die.
Yeah, one of the most newest employees, Alexa, was like, hey, I noticed everybody uses glass around here. And I was like, we had a guest. It's a thing. Yeah, you need to get glass containers from now on, or else
you're going to grow bread.
Yeah, I know. I was like,
wait.
You're going to, yeah.
Anyway, the plastics and stuff like that, they act as estrogen in your body, but they're harmful to your body, and they're negative. So, yeah, you can avoid it by simply just switching up the type of plastic that you have, and there's a bunch of different things that he suggested on that show.
Yeah. And we also had Miranda and Julian Alcaraz.
Oh, yeah.
They were just really cool people, and they kicked our ass.
Yeah, that workout was great.
CrossFit workout that murdered us.
That almost died.
I think I did die a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then rounding out the year, we had the great debate.
Oh, yeah, the great debate.
Lane Norton versus Sean Baker.
Mm-hmm.
So, carnivore versus what's it called
Flexible?
again? Flexible dieting. I can remember it.
If it fits your flexibility.
Yeah. That was, dude, how cool was that? We had so many people on the live stream. That was the first time I couldn't keep up.
That was awesome. It was good to hear both sides of the story, and it was also, interesting to see when you put the two people in the room together, how much alike they are rather than how far apart they are.
Right.
They still had a lot of different views, but I think each guy's correct. I think if you follow a lot of the advice from Lane Norton, you're probably going to be healthy and lean. If you follow a lot of the advice from Dr. Sean Baker, you're going to be healthy and lean. And speaking of that, January is coming up, and it's World Carnivore Month, and I'm jumping all in.
Yeah, I'm excited because, I mean, I mentioned it on my Instagram yesterday. I feel better when I'm eating a bunch of ribeyes as opposed to chicken breasts.
You mentioned
and
that
rice.
before too, even with keto, right? Just
Mhm.
committing to like eating a lot less carbs and stuff like that.
Yeah, I just feel better.
We also had our boy Jason Kalipa on.
Yeah, we had him on a bunch of times.
Round out the year though, and then we also had Kobe on there, right?
Kobe?
Colby. What the hell is his last name?
Kobe Lopez, a.k.a.
Kobe Lopez.
Seth Rollins.
Yeah.
So, reason why I didn't put that on the list because those aren't available yet.
Oh, my God, but they will
right?
be.
Yeah, they will be. And then also, I mean, another episode that didn't necessarily come out because it turned into a big YouTube conversation was we went to hang out with Phil Heath down in his, well, not his gym, but the gym he trains in Colorado. And that was another cool conversation because it was right before the Olympia.
Right.
He didn't end up winning, like, was kind of expected almost by everybody. But we have another winner that we eventually will be talking to soon. So that's pretty cool too. But yeah, I mean, we've had so many guests. If I listed them all out, we'd be
here forever.
It would be here forever. What we're trying to say is we have, because when there's a big stream that's going and there's like a lot of people commenting, you always have two sides of the field. It's like, well, you guys need to get back to just talking about powerlifting. And then the other side is all you guys ever do is talk to the same four people. It's like buddy, like, dude, we talk to anybody. Like, it's just, we're always going to bring great information, great conversations. We're going to have a lot of fun doing it.
Right.
Usually talk a lot about poop, I know, but
a lot of poop stories.
That's part of fitness.
2019, we're going to talk to some fans, so get ready for that.
Yeah. Who wants to talk to Mark Bell?
Hell yeah. All right, man. I got to pee really bad, so we gotta park this bitch.
Yeah.
All right, peeps. We got the Super Training Classic coming up February 9th and 10th. I expect all of you to be there. It's here in Sacramento, California. We will post a link for it, I think, below. We can do that.
Yeah, I can do that.
And you can sign up for it. It's a push-pull contest. You can do a regular raw bench press, or you can wear a slinger, and there'll be some deadlifting going on, male, female. There'll be some great powerlifters there. There'll be some not such great powerlifters there. There'll be some people that are lifting for their first time. There'll be some people that are lifting there for their 4,000th time or whatever it might be. Strength is never weakness. Weakness is never strength. Catch you guys later.